schedules. And the Rutgers Scarlet Knights is where we stop today. Then we'll have Rob Bolton on the U.S. Open at Oakmont. Greg?
Yeah, Rutgers 7-6 last year, just a game under 500 in the Big Ten, and then close things out losing the Rate Bowl to K-State in a very high-scoring, interesting affair there, 44-41 to end the season. But that was last year. This is this year, and this is not a preview, but I do think Rutgers is on a good trajectory, and they got a guy back in charge that knows the lay of the land and knows how to be successful at Rutgers. And so I think the Scarlet Knights are an interesting team to look at, and not just a gimme on the schedule if you're in the Big Ten. But they got their work cut out for them based on the draw that they were given this year. So what are Greg Schiano and the Knights looking at as far as Scarlet Knights, not trying to do the UCF thing here. And Scarlet okay to say, or are we, but the Scarlet Knights and Greg Schiano looking to get back to the postseason and improve upon last year's record. So here's what they're looking at, which is all this exercise is, just taking a look at schedules. On Thursday, August the 28th, it will be Ohio to open things up on the Big Ten Network. Then on Saturday, September the 6th, Miami of Ohio will be a Peacock game. I won't say the networks for every one of these, but they do have their first month of broadcast already lined up. September 13th, Norfolk State. And then on Friday, September the 19th, they will open Big 12 play, Big 10 play with the Iowa Hawkeyes at 7 p.m. on Fox. They're going to be on Big Ten Network, Peacock, Big Ten Network, Fox as far as their first month of the season goes. They'll also bookend that month with a Thursday game against Ohio and a Friday game against Iowa. So a little bit of a wild card there, and they do have one extra Friday game we'll get to in the first half of the season, but we'll, continue on a little further, one more game just to get them into that first bye week, and that fifth game on the schedule before the open date is Saturday, September the 27th, so they'll have an extra day to prepare coming off of the Friday against Iowa as they will travel to Minnesota. Their first road trip of the year comes 5 weeks into the season, and it will be the Golden Gophers there that weekend before they take a break and should be 3-0 in the non-con. And then we get into Big Ten play with Iowa and Minnesota, a little bit more of a guessing game there, but there's the first 5 weeks for the Scarlet Knights.
Yeah, I would think 3-2 is likely what they'll be out of this, but I mean, Minnesota, could they go and win that game against Minnesota? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But I think Iowa's going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be a tough one, even though it's going to be at home. But they should absolutely be 3-0 out of the first 3.
Yeah, they're not 3-0, then they slipped badly against somebody. But, 3-0, and then we'll see as far as Big Ten play goes. But delving further into that, once they're back from the first break, another Friday game, as I said, it'll be on the road at Washington. So back-to-back road trips after the first 4 games were at home. The Huskies on a Friday night there in Seattle. That'll be followed by the Oregon Ducks. So you get 2 of the big Pac-12 schools there back-to-back. That returns them to a Saturday schedule, which they'll be on the rest of the way. But, yeah, that first half, 2 Friday games and a Thursday game is kind of interesting. I don't know what the number of weeknight games for teams that normally don't play a lot of weeknight games is. Like the MAC, obviously they've got a lot of those. But that's the most I feel like we've seen on a schedule, or it's tied for the most, that many weeknight games. So you'll have that Oregon contest there getting back to the Saturday. Then Purdue on the road on October the 25th, Illinois on the road on November the 1st, and then Maryland at home as they return after a couple of road trips back to the friendly confines. So there you go. Then the second open week right after that Maryland game will leave them with 2 contests to close out the season, which I will get to, and which gives them a very interesting and difficult ending of the schedule. But, yeah, there you go. That second stint at Washington, Oregon at home, at Purdue, at Illinois, Maryland at home.
If you can be 3-2 out of the first part and then go And you're going to probably have to find your next 3 wins to be bowl eligible in here. Oregon and Illinois being in there makes it harder. Washington makes it harder. But yeah, really looking at that Minnesota game might be a swing game for their bowl eligibility. Given just how this is one of the toughest Big Ten schedules I think we've gone through.
My
so
God,
far.
yeah, Iowa, who they have Washington, Oregon, Illinois. I mean, geez, and that doesn't include what they finish up with.
Yeah, which I want to get to, and that is the final 2 games of the year. After that Maryland game, they take a break, and then how about this? At Ohio State on Saturday, November the 22nd, followed by a road trip, at Ohio State on Saturday, November the 22nd, followed by a home finale against the Penn State Nittany Lions. So they get Ohio State, Penn State back-to-back to close the season. So if they are heading into the final couple of games and they're in need of a win for bowl eligibility, which you hope they're already well past that at that point, but if they're riding a little close, then that could get really dicey there with those 2 closing out your schedule. Certainly 2 of the top programs in any of the rankings heading into next year. Ohio State with some question marks compared to a year ago, obviously, but it's still the Buckeyes. And then Penn State, obviously a team that feels very good about what they've got walking into next season. So, yeah, you'll need 2 weeks to get ready for those 2 games, and you'll have it. So that at least is something that I guess falls correctly for you if you're Greg Schiano gearing up for those 2 in particular.
Yeah, if you're 5-5, you're going to be sweating those last
you're
2.
sweating a bowl trip. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if you're 5-5, or 4-6 at that point.
You're 4-6, you're probably screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to beat both of them back to back.
Yeah.
They didn't play either one of those teams last year. They did not play Ohio State or Penn State a year ago.
And then this is one of those things, what did you do to get them back to back? How did the computer spit that out? Somebody has to eventually, but that just sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've seen.
That's why they gave him a bye.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've seen anybody else with those 2 back to back. Maybe we have. We've gone through so many of these that it kind of all blends together in terms of the details of it all. But that's a bad draw, and it could very well be 2 playoff teams there at the end. I think the expectations are probably that it will be. Oregon. Another big name on this schedule. As far as who they don't play Michigan. That's the biggest name that's not on the schedule. They don't play Nebraska or USC. They don't play Michigan State. They don't play Rutgers. They don't play Indiana. They don't play Northwestern. And I may be missing 1 or 2,
Wisconsin.
but I'm not. Huh?
Wisconsin.
Yeah, they don't play Wisconsin. Thank you. That's another one that they don't play. I was trying to go off of
Wisconsin
memory.
beat the hell out of them last year, too.
Yeah, so there's another team that they miss out on. So there's some pretty good brands that they will not play, but they got some pretty good ones. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. Not sure how many Big Ten teams play all 3 of those schools as well on a single schedule. But, this is all a matter of get bowl eligible by early November, or you're going to be cutting it close, basically.
Of the teams they have to beat that are those tweeners, where they might be among 8 teams in the Big Ten, they did beat Minnesota last year. They beat Washington last year, and they beat Maryland last year, but lost by 7 in a shootout to Illinois. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. They were hammered. Wisconsin, who last year was beat them 42-7. So that's maybe Wisconsin's best win last year.
Yeah, they're going to have a. They're going to have a wild road, I would say, especially given the fact that they beat a lot of those teams last year. I think Washington in particular will be very, very improved.
I think they
compared to last year. Yeah. And so they're wild about the quarterback they got up there. So among other things, but Jed Fish year 2 and all that. So
they started football back in the late 1800s. Their first bowl team, guess the year. Garrett, they started back late 1800s. What would be their first bowl team?
Give me 1917.
1978.
Oh, damn.
Now, remember, there weren't many bowl games for the longest of time. Greg Schiano was taking them to 9 of their 13 overall bowl games. Had that stretch from 05 to 09 and 11. They've won 3 of the last 4 years they've gone to a bowl game. He just kind of knows what they need and knows, as you said at the start, Craig, the landscape of what Rutgers needs. And he has been fantastic for them.
Yeah, I mean, he is I don't know if there's somebody with an official title of Mr. Rutgers, but for somebody who has no bond whatsoever to that I was going to say franchise, practically is at this point, but that program, he's who I first think of when I think of Rutgers at this stage, and he's had a lot of success there. He's already taken a positive step forward, I think, just based on last year and getting them, into another bowl game. So yeah, most of their history that we talk about, or that people will talk about, is the Greg Schiano years. And so to have him there, that gives you hope as a West Virginia fan or as a UCF fan, that bringing old guys back who had success previously can bring that magic back to you, or that's the hope at least. And so, Rutgers was very spotty there for a little while in terms of making the postseason, but it's back-to-back years now and finishing above 500. So now you just hope that they can go 8-5 or 9-4 or whatever, the better improved record would be. One of those, or even higher than that, whatever you're shooting for. You just hope you don't finish 7-6 for a third consecutive year, because then that just starts to get a little bit old, right? Then you're like, all right, it's cool, we're winning, but we got to get 8 wins. We got to get 9 wins. And so you're hoping to see them take a step up some way or another, I would think, this year.
What's crazy is their first bowl game was 1978. They actually had about 4, 5, or 6 decades where coaches had really good records, better than Schiano's record when he was there for a long, long time. But they just didn't get to bowl games because there weren't many of them available. Greatest player to ever come out of Rutgers. Let me see if I could find that. You guys know who it might be?
Ray Rice.
Retired numbers, Eric LeGrand. He, of course, we interviewed him in the Super Bowl one time when he was injured in that game against Army. Ray Rice might be someone that might be a part of it.
He's notorious now, but
yeah, no,
for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
is that still the elevator, or are we still on that, or was there anything after that? I really don't remember.
I'll tell you, I met him at the Big 12 had a symposium on interpersonal violence, and his thing now is talking to people who have been guilty of that, about rehabilitating them. So good on Ray Rice that he's trying to be better. So
yeah, I don't think we're always the worst mistake we've ever made defines us. I mean, it can for some people, but I think in his case, if he's out there doing good work and trying to better people and prevent them from making the same mistakes as he did, it doesn't excuse what he did. But I don't think you put him in a box for forever and ever because he was still a young guy and obviously made an egregious decision and mistakes, but he's out there helping people now, then I think that's freaking great.
He told his story, and it lines up with a lot of things. Like, you're kind of a product of your environment, and you do what you see, and and so, yeah, I mean, he's gone through a lot of personal reflection and therapy and all those things to work on himself. So I, again, don't know how well it's working because I don't spend any time with Ray Rice, but at least somebody's out there doing that. So
Paul Robeson, was a famous Rutgers football player who ended up having a huge impact with his political stances and cultural accomplishments, and of course was a bass baritone concert artist, actor, and also professional football.
Is that from his Wikipedia?
Yeah,
there's no way you just read that off.
No, I mean, but I was looking for
it sounded like AI. It was like an accomplished artist in his background of.
Deron Cherry, was he not a really good player at
he
KC
was. There's
Chiefs?
a list of good players. That Kenny Britt was another one of them. Devin McCourty was another one of them. I mean, they've had some players. I think Ray Rice is probably the most well known. I saw the Paul Robinson note, but I didn't delve into his whatever his background. But I think that's probably a little old for most people. But I mean that's a slew of the names there: Kenny Britt, Devin McCourty, Mohamed Sanu, Ray Rice, et cetera, are some of the greater Scarlet Knights.
The most famous person to come out of Rutgers, though, was James Gandolfini.
Oh, I did not know that. And
he was,
no matter what, who else?
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Do you know who his roommate was?
James Gandolfini.
Polly Walnuts.
Yeah, you'd think. No, it was.
Was he Italian?
Yeah, it was Greg Schiano.
There you go.
The head coach. Yeah. So
there you go.
Back when Schiano first got that job, he went and was there on the sidelines, which it's got to be really intimidating when you're the other team. That Tony Soprano's just over there, just waiting for him to fly off the handle. And
yeah, that's a loss. There's a lot of them out there of people who were gone too soon that would have made some really cool stuff if they had the opportunity. And I think Gandolfini coming off of Sopranos didn't even scratch the surface of what he could have done, big picture wise. But we still have the Sopranos and some other roles as well. But yeah, that's been a cool note that's been attached to Greg Schiano. I think I hear that every year in some game or another.
I had lunch with a friend last week who is just watching The Sopranos for the first time.
What?
Yeah.